Get a green light going. Okay, I have something to read before we get this meeting started. The city has returned to hybrid public meetings pursuant to AB 361, which allows for a deviation from the teleconference rules required by the Ralph M. Brown Act. Residents now have the option to attend the meeting in person or to participate remotely. If maximum occupancy is met in council chambers, additional attendees will be asked to participate in the meeting via the remote options listed below. To participate remotely, residents can live stream the meeting at www.prcity.com/YouTube and call 805-865-7276 to provide public comment via phone. The phone line will be open just prior to the start of the meeting and remain open throughout the meeting to ensure the opportunity for the public to comment on each item heard by the commission. Written public comments can be submitted via email to planning@prcity.com. Those received prior to 12 o'clock noon on the day of the meeting will be posted to the city's website as an addendum to the agenda. If submitting written comments in advance of the meeting, please note the agenda item by member or name. Planning Commission meetings will be live streamed during the meeting and available to play later on YouTube by accessing the following link, www.prcity.com/YouTube. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. If everybody please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Rob, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item C, roll call.
Commissioner Christensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Here.
Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Gibson?
Here.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Here.
Commissioner Neal?
Here.
Chairperson Kogler. The record will reflect that Commissioner Kogler is absent and Commissioner Christensen is attending remotely.
Okay, thank you. We have staff introductions, please.
Warren Frace, Community Development Director.
Marcy Reynoso and Ashley Peterson, Administrative Assistants.
Darren Nash, City Planner.
David Abbey, City Engineer.
Does that conclude staff introductions?
Lori Wilson, Assistant Planner.
Isaac Rosen, Assistant City Attorney.
There we go.
Miranda Harris, Fire Marshal.
All right, anyone else from staff here or remotely attending? No, okay. Item E is general public comments regarding matters not on the agenda. Are there any comments from the public regarding matters that are not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Item F, agenda items proposed to be tabled or rescheduled, or any of those items?
There are none.
There are none. Okay. Moving into section G, public hearings. Item number 1, conditional use permit for Drive Customs to COP 22-10/P22-0051. The applicant is Combine Commercial LLC, Jesse Prister, and the address of this site is 23512 Combine Street. The APN number 025-437-040, and its request to establish an automotive repair shop within an existing building in the C3 district. Can we have staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. This is Lori Wilson, Assistant Planner. Can you hear me okay, or do you also have an echo?
I think it's good on our end, Lori.
Okay. So yes, our first item tonight is the conditional use permit for Drive Customs. They're located at 3512 Combine Street. You'll see the site highlighted there in blue for you. They are in the C3 zoning district, surrounded by a few construction offices, shoreline awning to the left, and then Central Coast Trailers parking lot just to the south. So the request before us tonight is to establish an auto parts installation shop. Drive Customs provides aftermarket vehicle upgrades such as speakers, navigation systems, audio systems, and then they also do a lot of upfitting for emergency vehicles. So that could look like prisoner partition installation, light bars, radios, sirens, etc. Drive Customs just operates during the week from 9 to 5 with 3 employees. There is a condition that's going to be added to the use permit that any sort of fabrication as well as storage of equipment is all limited to indoors only. The only kind of noise element one might be concerned with this use is that they do have to test the sirens that they're installing. The applicant, though, has indicated that they have a sound reduction device that they use, which would bring them into compliance with the city's noise ordinance. So next we'll be looking at a site plan here. The unit that you see on the left is the unit Drive Customs will be going into. This building is already constructed. I believe it was final just in January of this year. This particular unit requires 6 parking spots. They do have 7 on the site there that will be in the rear of the lot behind a gated fence. So plenty of parking here for the site for this use. And then we'll take a look at the floor plans next. They have their display, conference room, fabrication rooms on the first floor, and then an office and break room on the top. So that does conclude my presentation, and the options before the commission tonight would be to approve draft resolution A, approving conditional use permit 2210, subject to the site-specific conditions of approval. You can refer back to staff for additional analysis or amend the above noted options. With that, I'll go ahead and open up to the commission for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Is the applicant here or the applicant representative would like to make any comments? Go ahead and step up to the dais and introduce yourself.
I'm Jesse Sprister. I'm the owner of Drive Customs. If you guys have any questions, I can answer anything. We actually build all the emergency vehicles for the city of Paso, and we do that for a lot of the cities throughout the Central Coast. So that's actually the primary function of our business is emergency vehicle outfitting.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to the commission for questions of staff or the applicant. Let's start with our commissioner that's calling in. Commissioner Christensen, do you have any questions of the applicant or the staff?
Thank you. I was on DRC for this. I have no question.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Neal?
No questions.
Okay. You have any questions?
I'll just ask staff or Mr. Sprister if you want to answer. I hear it's by appointment only, so there's not going to be any queuing up of cars. It'll be, so your parking can accommodate all the vehicles. Yep. All right.
Yeah, all of our emergency vehicles are dropped off by appointment, scheduling, and then any kind of customer jobs are scheduled ahead of time.
And some of them stored inside, as I understand. Yeah, thank you. That's all I had.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
I was on DRC when we heard this item, and I don't have any questions.
Rob, you have any questions?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. On the siren testing, I noticed that it's limited to 2 times a week. Are those designated days and times?
No, that's worst case scenario. It's usually a lot less than that.
Okay. Okay. And then just to clarify, I noticed that it's exempt from any environmental, so you have no oil or gas products, correct?
We actually do, it's basically clean automotive, so we don't do any kind of, oil changes or engine work or paint or body or any of that kind of stuff. It's all electronic.
Perfect. I'm good.
Okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open up. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address the commission on this item? Seeing nobody, I'm going to go ahead and close the public. Oh, Marcy, is there anybody online?
No callers.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Are there any one last look around? Any other questions from Commissioner? No. I entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion. Joel, I'll beat you to it. I recommend we approve draft resolution A, attachment 3, approving conditional use permit 2210, subject to site-specific conditions.
I'll second that.
Okay, there is a motion, and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Covarubias.
Aye.
Commissioner Jorgensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Neal,
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen,
Aye.
Chairperson Gibson.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 2. This is an amendment to the development plan for CAPS Construction, PD 22-06, PD 05-012, and P 22-0054. The applicant is CAPS Construction, Devon Caps. This is located at 3528 Combine Road. The APN is 025-437-048. And the request is an amendment to the development plan for Lot 48 of Tract 2594, which is Combine Lots PD 05-012, to reduce the street side setback for fencing from 10 feet to 6 feet. Can we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, as you mentioned, this is a request out on Combine Street, just down the block from the previous item. This is a corner lot. The building is just finishing up. With this request, the applicant would like to enclose the parking lot area with a masonry wall and a gate system. This is a construction company that has over the evening hours park some of the construction vehicles and things within the area and would like it secure, as well as enhance the fencing and wall materials for the site. So this is looking at the building, as I mentioned, currently under construction. So we're looking southeast here, and the yellow kind of shaded is outlining that rear block wall. The request is to amend the development plan. The setback in the development plan is currently stated at 10 feet, and the request is to reduce it to 6 feet. So looking at the overhead here, the yellow line is pertaining to the rear property line where the DRC had previously approved a split-face block wall. The dashed blue line is what we're speaking to this evening. The setback needs to be amended in order to get it at 6 feet, which also clears those two initial parking spaces as you come in the driveway. In order to get a 10-foot setback, it would go within those two spaces, which would reduce the parking. So as I mentioned, the request is to reduce that setback, extend that block wall around the corner across the front with a decorative wrought iron gate. A little parking lot plan here. The colors showing the green is the previously approved split face wall. The blue along adjacent to Combine would be turning the corner with the 6-foot masonry wall. They're showing the portion of the wall with some wrought iron above it, with some columns. That would be what would be done, proposed along Combine. The pink showing the wrought iron type gate. So that's the gate, the decorative split face with the wrought iron. So the request for you tonight is we have a resolution before you that amends the development plan to allow the reduction in that side setback for the fence to 6 feet for this lot. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Darren, is the applicant here, the applicant's representative, like to make any comments?
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Pamela Giardini with Planning Solutions, and I'm here as the agent for the applicant, Mr. Capps from Capps Construction. Actually, staff has done an excellent review of the project, and it went to DRC. DRC approved it, and so I'm basically here to answer if you have any additional questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and turn it back to the commission for questions. Want to start on this end? Commissioner Covarrubias, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Jorgensen?
No.
Commissioner Davis?
No.
Mr. Neal? Commissioner Christensen, do you have any questions?
None. I was on DRC. Thank you.
All right, I also have no questions. So I'm going to go ahead and, this is a public hearing. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that would wish to address the commission on this matter? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Excuse me, I'm going to ask, are there any comments from the public? Caller?
No callers.
Okay, all right. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing then. One last chance. Any questions from staff? See none.
I don't have a question, but this is our
Make a comment?
deliberation
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
I think I don't have any problem with the setback or the concept of the fencing. I would propose that the wrought iron design be worked out with staff because what was shown doesn't seem in keeping with combine area to me, but the proportions and the size and all that and the setback, I'm okay with.
All right. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Jorgensen on the ornate style. I don't think goes with the building nor with the neighborhood. But I'm also wondering if that 4-foot block, the 2-foot wrought iron top is actually going to provide the security that Mr. Capps is looking for. And I think I would like to give the option to staff to reduce the height of that block wall to actually provide the security that I think Mr. Capps is desiring for that property. So.
Okay, so just to understand, you're suggesting that a possibility of having a motion that the staff would have the latitude to help design the makeup of the wall?
Well, I would give staff latitude to not necessarily stick with the 4-foot by 2-foot size, and give them the latitude if we receive, and I still feel that this fence is a little ornate, if we feel that that works, I would give staff that latitude to provide the security that I believe Mr. Capps is looking for.
Right. Commissioner Christensen, did you have any comments that you'd like to make or want to add to the discussion?
No, I don't. I would concur with Commissioner Neal that would make sense. Give them some latitude for that. I agree.
Okay. Any other discussion? Not an entertain a motion.
Question from staff for clarification.
Yep.
So I've heard, and I guess we'll get a motion, but the comments I've heard were the design of the wrought iron portion, staff to work with the applicant, maybe do something not as with the spears and the decoration, maybe more of a standard tubular steel or metal type fencing decorative was one comment I heard. And then the second comment I heard, now what didn't quite understand. So the bottom blue portion shows the 4-foot tan split face with the 2-foot metal on top. And what the latitude was staff to work with the applicant, is that to allow a taller than the 4-foot block, the block to go up taller for more protection?
I'm waiting for the motion. I think the motion will help make that self-evident.
Well, I guess the motion maker can include that, but to answer staff's question, I was not looking for a taller block wall. I was looking for a shorter block wall.
I'm hearing the same height of a wall, but a different proportion of block versus metal.
Understand.
I'm hoping that the maker of the motion clarifies that in their motion.
I'm not sure that the maker of the motion knows how to do that, though I have not made one.
Okay. Still looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move approval of draft resolution A, attachment 2, approving planned development 22-06, approving side yard fence setback of 6 feet, as well as giving staff the ability to approve the fencing style with the commission looking for something less ornate, as well as adjusting the ratio of block to wrought iron fence, and prefer the block to be lower than the 4 feet if a change is made.
Okay, so there is a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
There's a race to a second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Anybody need any clarification on the motion? Staff, do you understand what the motion is?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Christensen.
Christensen second.
Yeah, Christensen second the motion. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Neal?
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Aye.
Chairperson Gibson?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, good luck. You're welcome. Okay, item number 3 on our agenda tonight, amendment to Sky River RV Plan Development and Conditional Use Permit, AMD 21-04, PD 00-015, CUP 00-0014, P21-0071. The applicant is Sky River RV, Randy Harding. The address is 2525 Theater Drive, APN number 009-851-010, 009-851-011, 009-851-013, 009-851-005. The request is to amend the development plan conditional use permit for Sky River RV to expand the RV inventory to 3 adjacent lots. We have staff report, please.
Thank you. Yes, good evening again, Commissioners. This is Lori Wilson, Assistant Planner, and I'll be taking us through this item as well. As you mentioned, it's an amendment to Sky River. We can go ahead and skip to the next slide. So Sky River is located in the C2 Commercial Highway Zoning District with a planned development overlay just to the west of Highway 101 near Nutwood Circle. They currently occupy the lot that you see highlighted to the north there, that's being highlighted for you, with an existing RV sales business. And the amendment tonight is a request to extend into parcels 1, 2, and 3 to the south of this lot. So what the amendment encompasses is an extension of the display and sales area of approximately 6.5 acres, which would provide for 200 new and used inventory RV units. Within those 200 new spaces, they would also like to designate a portion of that as overflow employee parking. And then lastly, the project also requests to install a new 6-foot perimeter fence and some landscaping. So this is a site plan for the project, just showing you the layout of the parking, fencing, landscaping. And Amber Davis with Quest Planning is on the line with us tonight. What I would like to do is go ahead and pass this presentation on over to Amber. She has prepared a in-depth presentation on this project. And then, Amber, are you ready to go with that? If you'd like to go ahead and share your screen now, I'll let you take over.
Yep, I'll do that right now. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Amber Davis with Quest Planning, representing Randy Harding and Sky River RV. I'll skip through these first couple slides since Lori presented this, overall project information. A little site history and background. So Sky River is an existing new and used RV sales and service facility. The existing development includes an 1,800 square foot sales office, 2 service buildings, and the remainder of the site is currently used for RV display, employee parking, and RV service parking. The proposed project is to increase the area that Sky River RV has in order to, for new and used sales inventory, employee parking, overflow, and RV sales parking. The anticipated earthwork volumes for lots 1, 2, and 3 on the expansion is about 9,800 cubic yards of cut and 6,400 cubic yards of fill. Existing driveway off of Theater Drive will provide site access, and secondary site access points will be gated and are located between the adjacent properties of Paso Robles Kia and Daylight Gardens. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on another slide, but no lighting is proposed for the lot expansion. So circulation for the site. So the existing primary entrance, which is designated in the red arrow on the site circulation plan, is going to be used. It's a existing gated entrance that's frequently used by customers and employees currently. The secondary access will be down here. It's designated in that bright blue color on the southwest corner of parcel 2 and will be used by employees only. So just a secondary access to take them out of the property. Traffic on the property will not exceed 5 miles per hour, and most circulation will be facilitated by golf carts. So as customers come into the site, they'll park their cars at the existing sales office, and then a sales officer or sales person will pick them up and take them by golf cart into the expansion area to look at RV units. The neighborhood compatibility, the proposed project, we took into account neighboring residences located to the west. The fencing and landscaping that's proposed will provide screening between the residences and the RV expansion project. No access points are proposed on Nutwood Circle, and no additional traffic will be created as part of this lot expansion project. Sky River RV also hosted an open house last week to build connections with residences where we had these site plans up and could discuss with the neighboring residences the proposed project and address any of their potential concerns and questions. So for fencing, on the western boundary, it's going to be a 6-foot tall chain link fence. That'll also be on both the western and the interior of the lot. That's designated in blue on this slide on the right. The southern boundary will be a 6-foot tall tubular steel fencing, and that's designated in orange down there off of Nutwood Circle. For fencing setbacks, we proposed to put the fencing down at the toe of the slope. So there's quite an elevation change between Nutwood Circle and the new lots for the RV expansion, which provides putting that fencing down lower is going to provide an adequate setback, prevents potential visual impacts to the areas west and south of the property. And the southern boundary fencing will align with the existing metal fence of Daylight Gardens and future fencing, which is proposed on Lot 2 by ABI, which is proposed to be decorative masonry fencing. Parking on the site. Parking was a requirement of the existing use permit, and for three parking spaces for every 1,000 square feet of commercial use. So that would require the site to have 24 paved parking spaces. The project has currently provided and maintained 25 paved parking spaces since the original approval. And the request today will allow for 16 additional overflow parking spaces for employees on the western portion of parcel 1. So designated by that red star there on the left. And this area, this overflow parking area, will be based with an all-weather material, as well as on parcels 1, 2, and 3. Those will be all-weather materials as well for the RV parking. Landscaping will include drought-tolerant plantings, which are proposed along the project boundaries with perimeter screening trees and also on-site shade trees. Landscaping is going to be extended along the entire western boundary of the project site, which will bring this area into compliance with the previously approved planned development and landscaping plan, and will also make that fencing at the toe of the slope consistent along the entire western boundary of the property. And all existing oak trees on site will be protected. So again, this is our overall landscaping and fencing plan on the site, and you can see the designated and proposed parking spaces for both the overflow employee parking and for the RV for sale. And I wanted to touch on Theater Drive frontage improvements. So the previous project approval required frontage improvements to Theater Drive, which was condition of approval number 15. So as part of this project, we are designating a 13-foot offer of dedication, which is provided on the conceptual site plans to allow for future Theater Drive road widening. And the project team is currently working on construction level documents for those Theater Drive frontage improvements. And we had a few project studies and resource studies done for the lot expansion area. The first one was an archaeological resource study, and that study provided that no cultural resources were present on the site. And we also had a biological resource study done for any potential impacts to sensitive biological resources, which determined that they would be minimal, with those individual oak trees being, covered within that survey area and being maintained on site. So that concludes my presentation. I wanted to let you know that Randy Harding, the owner, is in the meeting today in person, as well as Rachel Best with Quest Planning, if they can answer any questions for you.
Thank you. Now is the time for commission questions of staff and applicant. Commissioner Davis, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I have a question, whether Amber or Lori, either one can chime in. Can I see the site? Oh, yeah, thank you. So Lori or Amber, it doesn't matter. The parcel 1, 2, how are those spaces designated? Obviously, this is a very successful business. They are bursting at the seams with a lot of units parked there on their existing property. Is this marked, or is this just the order in which they will be parked? Are they designated? And talk to me a little bit about the orderly fashion of the parking of the units.
And Mr. Chairman, I think having Mr. Harding answer that question.
By all means.
The operations of that, how that would work would be best.
Yeah, that's fine. You please approach the podium and give your name and.
So the question is in the expansion area?
In the expansion area, yeah.
So give your name and address.
My name is Randy Harding.
Hi, Randy.
All right, okay, just so we know who you are, we have to have that for the record.
Thank you.
Go ahead, thank you.
I'm nervous. That's a big deal for me. The RVs are big, right? And what we try and do is we try and put them. They'll basically be in those parking stalls that you can see, but because the sizes vary and with the slides going in and out, they might be. It depends if you have a big 40-foot fifth wheel or if you have a little one. But it'll basically be that general flow.
And will the spaces be marked, or is that just the format in which you intend to park?
That's just kind of the format.
The format. Okay. And I did go over there today. I saw 40 cars parked over there where I think you want to park employee parking. Is that correct? In the section on the site map there on the left. Will that be the same kind of base that you intend to use that's already there?
Yeah, on the new section where we put down the road base.
Where I'm guessing there were 40 cars parked there. Is that where the type of material you hope to keep there?
Yes.
Okay. And I've always been a little confused about the circulation, if you can kind of zoom out a little bit. When we come in to your facility, the customers will park there at your, in those assigned spots right there. You have the pointer. And the customers, if they're looking for an RV, will be on a golf cart. Is that how they're circulating? I got confused. There was a lot going on at your business there today when I was there.
So just like if you go into Target or Lowe's or anything, they don't have customers accessing. They have designated points, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to control the access, and we want the customers coming in the current access and basically stopping there, not driving all out through the lots. It'll be blocked off from everybody driving all out through that area. The problem is our service area goes back to where it says Sky River RV right there. And so, what we need to do is we'll work on, right now we have units for sale right there, and we'll be able to clear all that stuff out and open that up so that the customers will be able to pull around and get around that area.
That explains it, because it seemed like there was a lot happening in that corridor today. It's like, okay. So I kind of needed to understand your parking plan. That's all I have for right now.
Staff, do you have in the packet, we have a circulation map. Are you looking for that flow?
Yeah, that's one that was in the other presentation, so we're trying to bring it up.
Okay, all right. We'll move on while you're looking for that. There you go. Okay. Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Davis just mentioned she counted 40 cars today in the area that would be designated for the future employee parking overflow. But how many were proposed in there? 20? Do I remember 25? Can't find it right now. I'm just wondering I'm confused by that.
Yeah, so what was indicated in the applicant's presentation was 25 parking spaces. Paved parking are the spaces that are required per the zoning code for the use and the square footage of buildings. And that was proposed with the original RV project, and that's what's been built and been used over time. What's being proposed with this amendment is this area here would be used for additional beyond the 25 overflow parking space. And it was my understanding, it was indicated 16 was the number I heard. So I think the question may be, it appears as though there were more than 16 cars in that area out there today. So maybe the applicant could kind of provide us a general what's coming up with the overflow area, and generally how many parking spaces are being proposed.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'd like to move back the employee parking back to the original employee parking area. It moves the employee parking further away from the residents right there, and then also with putting up the screening with the landscaping there. We think that blocks that. But
and if I may, Mr. Chairman, Randy, so are you talking about in this corner is where the employee parking would be?
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, this is an area that was previously called out on the prior plans as just RV space, RV sales space. What they're indicating with this plan is this would be employee parking area. It's actually further away, and with the tree further away. I think right now they tend to be parking in this area. So the idea is to clean this area up with the based area. These would be more RV display for sale RVs with the parking area for the overflow employee in this area. Is that generally what you're thinking, Mr. Harding?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's much more clear. Do we have a parking layout for that area in this package?
Lori, I don't know if we have a parking layout plan. That's a based area. I don't believe there's any specific markings or lines proposed for that overflow area.
And is that, would the city require that by zoning code?
So generally in overflow parking areas, I'm trying to think of a few, trying to get any kind of identified lines on a all-weather type surface doesn't generally last very long. So I think the intent is for this area to, since it's kind of secluded out in the corner, is to provide for 90-degree kind of a drive coming up with 90-degree on either side. And we can be more specific in a condition to verify that layout if the Planning Commission wishes to, but generally we wouldn't require any kind of striping for that overflow, especially with that material.
Okay. All right, thank you. Could you, with your cursor, Darren, would you clarify where's the all-weather parking and where is the DG or the not all-weather paving? I've said parking, I meant paving. Is the only area that would be the not all-weather, the area that we were just talking about, and everything else is, is it asphalt? What are we saying with all-weather? I'm just not clear on the surfaces.
Decomposed granite is what's being proposed in all the areas that you see for the RV display area, which is the larger area, as well as the overflow parking for employees.
Okay, so that's everywhere. And does the city consider that all weather?
Yes, as far as decomposed granite. I think the original project, if you look along this area, is DG. It's a rock, or it's not asphalt. And the original design of this project was more of a campground type atmosphere. This area here is going to be more of just an open DG lot where they're going to park, as Mr. Harding mentioned, the RVs for sale in these areas with a loop road for the golf carts to kind of get through and people to walk through. But there's really no specific change in material from where the RVs park to the road coming through. It's just an open area, and they're going to park them in a manner that allows those aisles to allow for access for the display.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. This may be for David Athey. The Theater Drive frontage requirement that I understand is already in place, is there any coordination between that previous requirement and this project? For example, that frontage improvements be complete before certificate of occupancy for this?
Go ahead.
Commissioner Jorgensen, Chairman Gibson, David Athey, City Engineer. Could you repeat your question? I want to make sure I understand it. I think you were asking about
are they coordinated? We heard about an existing requirement for the frontage improvements on Theater Drive. Is that coordinated somehow with this, as far as that has to be finished before this can be finished, for example?
In terms of other projects, or this project, the past approval for this project?
Okay, maybe I'm not clear on the frontage. The frontage requirements were already in place. Have they been completed?
No.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yes.
So must those be completed before this project can get a certificate of occupancy? Are they connected, or are they just two entirely separate things?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your previous question. Yes, they're connected. So prior to final of this project or any other building permit for this site, they have to complete the frontage improvements and the offer of dedication for Theater Drive.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you. Sorry, I had a hard time getting there. And then I had two questions about the perimeter. The perimeter trees, we saw photographs of proposed trees. Are those all, and I mean all the perimeter trees all around the site, are those all evergreen or deciduous? Because I've never understood the purpose of deciduous perimeter trees.
I'll defer to Amber on that, but the question is the perimeter trees. I don't have the list in front of me, whether they are evergreen or deciduous for the perimeter
Sure.
trees.
Okay, Amber Davis with Quest Planning. The perimeter trees are a combination of deciduous and evergreen trees, but mostly evergreen to provide that visual barrier.
Okay. I'm going to come back later and suggest that they all be evergreen. And then my last question is the fencing that for Lot 2 that the Planning Commission approved months ago for the construction company that's building there. This project is showing fencing along that perimeter, but as I recall, I think we approved fencing by the construction company along that perimeter. So, and that's the interior fencing I'm talking about. What is the construction company doing there, or what did we approve? And are we approving two different things on the same interior property lines?
So this is Amber Davis. I can answer that question for you. The interior property line of Lot 2 and Randy Harding's proposed expansion area is chain link fencing. And that is consistent with ABI's approval on Lot 2 for their fencing as well. The intention is for Sky River RV and ABI to have a common fence on that interior property line of there.
Okay. And so staff, was that chain link was what was approved previously for the other project by the Planning Commission?
That was my understanding too, is those interior fences were going to be installed and shared by the two businesses.
But we had approved it as chain link on the interior.
Correct. I don't recall if ABI had any slats or anything in the chain link, but I know it was chain link, and we'll go back and look at the condition for ABI, but it'll be consistent between the two.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Commissioner Covarrubias.
Thank you. Yeah, a couple questions. First one for staff. I assume that the emergency services has already reviewed this and there's no concerns there?
That's correct. They've been involved with it. They've been involved with reviewing the plans. I think the one thing we need to clarify, and I think we'll add a condition in, is we need to make sure that the access areas can support the fire apparatus, which I believe that all of the circulation areas are what is existing now. What we're adding is parking spaces and RV display, which I don't believe needs any kind of access for fire apparatus in between these roads. But when we get to talking about a motion and possible conditions, I think I'd like to add a condition unless I'll have to take a look at the standard conditions, or it could be a checkbox checked, but we need to ensure that those all-weather roads that require any type of emergency vehicle use and be able to support that weight. So we'll come up with a condition and verify that.
Perfect. Curious question, Randy. Nutwood Circle, I believe the community has a road maintenance thing that supports that road. Is that correct? It's not a city maintained road, right?
As far as I understand, it's a private road.
Right. So are you guys involved at all in that?
So we don't have access to Nutwood at all. So we can't exit or enter from Nutwood at all. So we have the road that goes between Kia and Daylight. Mm-hmm. That's also a private road, mm-hmm. And our owner in that. And so we have responsibility to maintain that road, and we'll use that as, emergency, like an exit, if we need to get in and out. But right. I want it gated, and I don't want people coming in and out of there.
Right. So there is absolutely no access to Nutwood.
No.
Correct. Okay. Perfect. Okay. The other question I had is I noticed that there's no lighting plan. What are your hours of operation?
We're basically Monday through Sunday. Sales is 9 a.m. to 6, and service is 8 a.m. to 5.
Sure. So I can understand not wanting to have a lot of brightness there for the residential neighborhoods that's right behind it. However, during daylight savings time and when time changes, it starts getting dark, 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
and there's no lighting in there. Is that?
We usually reduce our sales hours on daylight savings time because everybody goes home when it gets dark anyway, so it doesn't do us any good to stay open.
Okay. All right. So that just reduced sales hours then during that time.
Yeah, that's how we run it.
Okay.
Sorry.
You guys had a public open house. Curious, any feedback, any negative feedback that you received?
Well, everybody's concerned. You know, they have their houses there, and big investment. You know, they just wanted it, you know, to look right, and they wanted to see how it was going to be protected. And so, you know, really, everybody came with their guard up and pretty uneasy at the start, but then, you know, everybody that came stayed for probably 40 minutes, and we had a good conversation. And you know, I live right around the corner, and I want to be a good neighbor. I don't want to cause any problems, and you know, I'd like to sell them an RV eventually. You know, we want to be good neighbors. We don't want to be at odds with anybody. So you know, our interest is to be good neighbors and you know be a good asset to the community.
Okay, thank you for that, Randy. Thank you. No more questions.
Commissioner Neal.
Just a quick follow-up, because what I think I heard staff say is not consistent with the circulation plan that was provided as part of our packet. I think if we could go to, there it is. I think what staff said is that employee parking would be to the north of where it is circled at the moment. I just wanted to make sure that is in fact the case. This exhibit is incorrect.
This is Lori Wilson. I think I can help with that question. So that current area on where the cursor is now is what's historically been used. It was designated as overflow coach parking, and they've been using it as overflow parking area. So it's my understanding that they would continue to use that, but they would like to designate that area circled in green as additional overflow parking area if needed.
So would it serve dual purpose because that again is different than what I believe I just heard, that was to be RV parking and not employee parking. But if it is a dual purpose, I don't know. So that's my question. What is the use of that employee parking area in green?
Randy, why don't you, if you could, clarify with us the area, the green area here, the use of this, because we have a note here that says employee parking, but it's my understanding the employee parking was going to be up here on this side. This would be more sales areas. But if you could clarify, now's the time. I think the commission is just looking to make sure we're all on the same page of what's happening where. So if you could let us know what you have planned there, that'd be great.
I think a couple of things happened. One was the meeting with the residents, you know, and hearing some of their concerns. And, you know, one of it was that they were happy with the trees along that there would be screening, right? But then one of the other things is moving the employee parking over. And so originally, you know, as a business, our goal is to have our inventory out front. And so, you know, all that space we pay a lot of money for. This land isn't cheap, and you know, it's retail space, so we want to have our inventory up front. That's just the nature of our business. This is the same as a car dealership would. But you know, after talking with the people that came to our open house, it seemed like it was better to move the employee parking back to the original site, and then that moved it further away, you know, from the residences, and then there's a significant hill, so it definitely puts it down and blocks it back over there. So, you know, I think just as things ebb and flow. We're trying to figure out and make sure we put things in their proper place and the best use.
So then, I'm sorry if I'm being a bit obtuse, but the area in green is not for employee parking?
Well,
It will be for RV parking?
Overflow employee parking.
Okay, and then when it's not being used as overflow employee parking, it will be used as RV sales parking?
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll probably put some RVs up there, but I mean, by the time you get up there, it's not the way that everything lays out. It's probably not the most convenient place to drag a big RV up there.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Commissioner Christensen, do you have any questions?
I was on DRC for this, but I do have a clarification. Commissioner Covarrubias did bring up a point about the lighting. So, Darren, if this comes back and they want to add some additional lighting, other than, say, landscape lighting, would they, or even with landscape lighting, would they have to come back to city staff or the DRC or the Planning Commission?
That would be up to the Planning Commission to determine if that's something that'd be necessary or not. I think the best thing to do would be to work with staff, and staff would just make sure that any kind of lighting would be as low as possible, shielded, meet all that criteria that's standard for projects. But if the Planning Commission wished that to come back to DRC review, that could be that we could conclude that.
Okay, and the reason I bring that up is because I could imagine the applicant, it's such a large area, I would imagine they would want to have some kind of security lighting to address the nighttime hours when someone's not on site. So yeah, in my opinion, that may be something that the other commissioners might agree with, that we may want to do that if they decide to do a lighting plan to have it come back to DRC. And I think that's really the only question I have.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions. Darren, just following up on your suggestion for a possible condition that the all-weather roads be able to support emergency vehicles. Could you clarify using this circulation map that's up there now, that where we're seeing those colored lines, that in essence, those are some sort of a engineered road? The reason I'm asking is because I've heard the area characterized in different ways, like it's an open area where you're going to move coaches different places, just wherever they need to be displayed. So how formal of the roads or the area is that for any sort of potential ingress or egress that emergency vehicles might have to make?
And I'll defer to Randy Harris on that, Fire Marshal Harris. Randy, do you have the ability to see the presentation?
Yes, Darren, I do.
And I think the question is, out of these different circulation areas, we want to make sure that we're getting the necessary construction of these areas to support the fire apparatus. Could you help us explain which areas would need to be built to that higher standard?
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, commissioners. This is Randy Harris, Fire Marshal, City of Paso Robles. When I reviewed this project, I reviewed the site plan, looking at more of what I'll call a permanent design. In other words, having permanent drive aisles and then actually having set kind of parking spaces. The required fire access is basically to be able to protect the inventory and be able to make access to those areas with our fire apparatus. Throughout the project, there are the requirement of having fire hydrants spaced, and then obviously we would need to be able to circulate the project with fire apparatus.
So, Randy, go ahead.
With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, Darren.
And just clarifying, I think what we're wanting to know is we've got the main driveway coming in, the red arrow. This is all asphalt paving back up here to the second building. And then we get into the all-weather surface. Are you needing to bring fire apparatus down into these sales areas for the RVs that are indicated as the DG, the purple arrow areas?
Yes, absolutely. We need to be able to make access to protect that inventory. And the distances without the kind of main circulation roads would be too far and outside the TFC requirements.
Understood. So I think what we can do is add a condition to the project that requires that the access ways, the travel ways between the RVs and those areas be constructed in a manner to be approved by the fire marshal.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies that for me. My other question, and whoever feels like they want to answer can jump in, whether it's Randy Harding or Amber. We have some basic representations of what the planning concepts are, but honestly, they're pretty basic. They're almost like a watercolor, say green, without really giving us an idea of how dense or what actually is going to be planted. Can somebody educate me and tell me, down there on the bottom right corner is what I'm referring to. Can you give me some sort of idea about the density of the planning so I have an idea of what that is going to be? And I'm more particularly concerned with the planning between the residential area on Nutmeg. I mean, just to piggyback, because you indicated that, the people were actually saying that was one of their concerns. So I'm just curious.
Defer to Amber on that.
Right.
Yeah, sure. So Amber Davis with Quest Planning. So the proposed plantings in that area will meet the city requirements. And then we're actually going to do some additional planting along that western area, bringing those perimeter shade trees closer together to provide that vegetation. We've chosen some spreading erosion control ground covers to go below those shade trees, which will kind of grow down that slope and provide some stability in that area. So we were working closely with our landscape architect on that, on the spacing itself.
And Mr. Commissioner, just to provide a little more information there. So this plan is being, Jim Burrows is a landscape architect who's involved with this preliminary plan, but I understand your question. And I'm going to reach out to Lori Wilson. Lori, do we have a condition on this project related to a final landscape plan to come back for staff review? Is that how the condition's written?
Yes, that's correct. So it would come back for final staff review is how it's currently written prior to the grading permit being issued.
So there's a condition that the construction level landscape plans, irrigation and landscape plans come back to a staff review at the time of a grading permit so that we can review those specifics.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we've had one round at this. I sense that there might be some people out there that'd like to jump in, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on that. If there's anybody who'd like to speak on this topic, you come please to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Tracy Gervasi, and I am 296 Nutwood Circle, and actually on the map, I'm the adjoining property on the side that would be right there. And actually, I had a huge question, and it's actually on this map. I believe the green all down the side that you guys need them to plant, I believe it's called drought tolerant planting per city. I believe that's my property that it shows it being planted on, and I'm not okay with that. It shows the property line, and it's actually over the property, and that's actually mine. I own the road and 5 foot past it towards that. So, yes.
Just looking at this screen up
Yes.
here. So this area to the north up here?
The green strip.
The whole way?
Not the whole way. George
Okay.
owns part of it, and I own the other part.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I think we can add to our,
But I have more.
and I,
You want me to expand?
Yes.
well, If
not
we
just
would
that.
like to clarify that issue, my thought would be is we can condition the project to make sure that we have a survey and we indicate that the work that's being proposed and the work that would be done would be on the proper property and require a survey.
Well, I do know, just for statement of record, that on page 92, it does clearly state that the property line is the top of slope, so that would not belong to the applicant.
And I don't think it's for
Sorry to interrupt. It's Isaac. I just wanted to note we should allow our public commenters to move through the full extent of their comments.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, also, I've lived there for 10 years and I'm a homeschool mom. So I'm there like 100% of the time, pretty much, unless I'm picking up or dropping off a kid somewhere. And the noise that from the unpermitted, technically unpermitted at this moment, employee parking that is in where the circulation of the employee parking was that we saw on the circulation map earlier, there is a good 40 cars there. And if they're saying that they're going to move it back to the previous, there's no way possible they can park the amount of employees they have in that little tiny lot. And what has traditionally happened over the 10 years that I've lived there is they park their junker in working on motorhomes. And that's fine, except for those start fire. And they've had a fire recently. So I have a little bit of a concern with that. And the loud noises from the employee parking lot that's actually in a private space of my property. My property, the front of it, because I live on a hill, is oriented to where the driveway is. I have 2 gates, and that is the front of my house. Now, the private property, I get to hear them because they're really close. And so as noise ordinances go, having their employee parking there is not appropriate. Having a chain link fence, not appropriate. Having a block wall, okay, now we're talking, right? A block wall high enough to block some of the view. I'm not talking 20 foot tall, but I'm not talking 6 foot either. Something reasonable and something that has greenery on it, and it makes it like of value to our neighborhood instead of, you know, the way it is now, which is an existing chain link fence that is on the property line, and all the screening that they were supposed to have in the first place, the original use permit showed that there was supposed to be something there, but it has long died and it's weeds now. So I just have a lot of issues with what they're currently doing and what you're allowing them to do as a city. There is no zoning enforcement. I've called and I've emailed and I've texted anyone I could find repeatedly. And it's just really getting old. So I was hoping at this point that we could get to some kind of consensus of like a resolution. Maybe the employees that have a better spot where they're not idling their cars all lunch long or cussing or smoking right outside of the private parts of my house. Maybe they could be up by the entrance that they aren't really going to use for their main entrance. Or, you know, maybe those RVs that tended to catch fire because they have recently could be parked up there as well. Or just maybe we could have a concrete block wall that would make my life so much better. So, and make our neighborhood beautiful. But as it exists and as it sits, we're pretty frustrated, to say the least. And this has been going on for 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to address the commission on this item?
Oh, I'm Lee Carvasi. I'm Tracy's husband. I also live at 296 Nutwood. I just want to reiterate some of the issues were brought up by when I guess you would call, they're calling it temporary or overflow parking. As she stated, 40 plus cars there today. That's what we deal with now on a daily. That's new. That just changed when they purchased it. Prior, it wasn't near as much of an issue. Of course, at the ABI meeting, we kind of brought it up about some of the concerns. And it was, at that time, stated that this could be addressed. You know, they probably would fulfill some of the, say, sound mitigation, maybe visual barrier. Of course, then when we saw the chain link fence, security fence, that didn't seem to fulfill a good transition between a commercial to a residential area. The trees, great. I don't know the spacing. It's very vague. But it does. What some of the issues we have is when they do go back there, they tend to go to their cars, lunch breaks, I assume. And it's smoking, it's playing music, and my wife is a homeschooler. So that's all stuff that's now changed. So what we're hoping is just that there maybe we could revisit that westerly boundary and put something that does not only just add greenery, but something that helps with the sound, helps with smell, smoke that come in the house. Things like that that would be a nuisance if you imagine anyone that lived on the bordering property. And it isn't, I don't know where the 16 car came from. As you stated, 40 cars there today. It's hardly what you call an overflow, or they have 25 spots somewhere else, and I don't know. Again, I just want to reiterate that's some of the issues that we had, and maybe we can work through them and find something that's a little bit. Again, the existing parcel had the same requirements with the barrier and greenery. I can show you pictures from today. There's nothing but weeds and storage of old RVs. It's not, I guess maybe it's dictated on whether it's watered or not. Maybe it's been not watered since I lived there, but it's not there now. So I fear that if we're entirely dependent upon some trees and greenery as our sound barrier and visual barrier, that easily could be diminished just like the existing lot. So maybe something that's not going to be so dependent on that would be more suited. Ty, I think when we talked with the ABI, recommended if we look at some of the stuff, maybe at Kava, it had stone or brick with ivy or something like that. All those would be something that even if the ivy did die, you still would have the stone brick wall, still maybe offer a little bit more sound barrier and also provide the visual barrier. I don't think that's a whole lot to ask for. Make a lot better transition from a commercial to a residential area. I mean, we have a lot better, more aesthetic looking fence going down the, I guess it would be the south-facing perimeter than we do on the back, which actually borders a residential area. So those are some of our concerns. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. So anyone else in the audience like to address the commission on this? Okay, is there anybody that called in that like
No callers.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close public hearing. Could we have staff address the questions that the public brought up?
So Laura, you can kind of follow up on what I have. I think in terms of the location of the property line and where landscaping would start, I think it's something that the property line should be established so the property owners know specifically where it's at. Looking at this detail, and this is a conceptual, it's showing property line at the top. I understood that 5 feet beyond the road was approximately where the property line was. So the improvements that Sky River RV does should happen on their property. And we can make sure we have a condition that requires some type of establishing the location of the property line so that we can verify where landscaping would start and the improvements for this project would start. Going back to the original project, I think the original project was approved back in somewhere around 2003, something like that. I think at the time, there may have been some marginal landscaping at the time that has obviously gone away, not watered, not sufficient. With this project, it originally came in, or the initial meetings with the applicant was staff indicating that that existing portion of the sales property needed to be included in the new landscaping plan. We needed to get the landscape not only on the proposed new section, but on the older section as well, so that we could reestablish landscaping along there to be consistent. And the landscaping plan shows that that is proposed with this project. As mentioned earlier, we have a condition that the final landscaping plan come back for staff review where we can verify placement, irrigation, deciduous versus evergreen, so it's type of details with the landscaping plan. We've been working with the applicants, been out on site with the applicants, walked the road, walked up down the hill to try and determine the best location of where a fence would be placed. The original plans were shown at the top along the property line with a chain link fence. Staff worked to explain that a chain link fence along there, along a residential type transition there, didn't seem appropriate. Maybe some other type of fence that there's, different types of fencing that could work if it was up on top of the slope. Sound type wall was not what we were discussing. We were just talking about perimeter fencing. A suggestion was made by staff when we were out there is if the intent was to use 6-foot chain link, that if it was located at the bottom of the slope and not at the top, that it could still provide for security perimeter type fencing, but not be the chain link type fencing at the top of the slope. Therefore, being lower, it wouldn't be as visible, and that the landscaping would help the transition between the Sky River project and the residential. In terms of any type of sound wall, I think that the activities of the employees, I think, are more of a nuisance situation. I don't know how often it occurs, when it occurs, but obviously it's occurring. I think the placement of the employee parking area is probably something that could be considered rather than trying to put a sound wall along the top of the slope. Or I don't think that the city's noise ordinance would require a sound wall situation for this type of use. But that doesn't mean that discussing an employee break area, or maybe the commission might want to talk about a different place for the employee parking. Is my understanding, taking it from that southerly portion to the north with the oak tree, with provide a little more landscape area. But I understand the comments from the neighbors, and I think that that's something that can be discussed further on how better that might be addressed. Is there another question that I'm missed so far?
Thank you, Darren. I think you covered it all.
So Darren, I have one more. I think there was a comment about parking old vehicles along the residential area, and apparently there have been at least one fire recently.
Sure. There is a repair component to this business. Sky River RV has a repair facility. I believe that customers have the ability to bring in their recreational vehicles for repair. When we were out there on site, we did see that there were some older type RVs in the back lots there. I don't know if they were there for repair. There is not a storage component with this project, so they're not allowed to store RVs for commercial purposes. But in terms of needing an area where RVs would be parked while they're in the repair mode, I think is something that is part of this business. And maybe Mr. Harding can explain a little more where that happens. But I can understand that there's a component of that with this project. But as far as, RVs staying there on a long-term basis, that's not a permitted use with this project.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to bring this back. Discussion by the commission was go in the same order as we started. So Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that the commission has discussed the project. I think that
I would like to have some discussion about, well, first of all, we were just talking about where RV parks are parked for repair and for how long. I'd like to kind of talk about that and kind of know where they currently are. Maybe I can ask that question of Lori, do you know where they are currently being parked if they are for repair?
Well, I'll probably need to go ahead and defer that to Randy. I know that there are, I think it's in multiple places. There's some that are parked near the service station. And then when we were out there, we did see some parked in that rear portion of the lot as just kind of an overflow area, which was an approved use that those RVs being worked on can be temporarily parked there. So they are parked there as well. As Darren mentioned, they're just not supposed to be long-term storage of them. So I believe it's in the upper left-hand portion of the lot and then in the center of the existing lot near the service station.
Of which lot, Lori?
The existing lot is where they're currently parked.
Okay. I am sensitive to the landscaping issue. I want to make sure, I sense Roberta will be bringing up Evergreen. I think we definitely need density of landscaping as that barrier between the project and the neighborhood. I'm open to discussing, would it be better to move parking for the noise issue that the resident developed? Those are the things that are kind of on our radar right now.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
Thank you. I think all the things that Commissioner Davis said, I concur as concerns. I mean, there seems to be a growing list of vagueness. It's not clear where the property line is from the information we're presented. We don't have a specific landscape plan with spacing and exactly how it's going to be handled, trees or other bushes. The quantity on parking is, I'm just totally confused. It seems to be a moving target, and that needs to be specified for me. I don't understand it. I still don't understand where it would go. It just seems like, well, we're just approving a whole bunch of dirt and we'll move things, and I can't support that. I would also encourage looking for a new site for the disruptive staff parking. I don't know where. I don't know that that's our position to recommend it. I just think there needs to be an alternative presented. So I'm not against or in favor of this. I just don't think it's not baked. It's not ready to vote on yet, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Covarrubias.
Thank you. Hey, Darren, just for clarity, there was some public comment regarding that when this project was originally approved, that there was supposed to be some kind of screening in place at some point. Is that a valid comment? Do you know if that's an accurate statement as far as that there was supposed to be some screening that took place after the fencing was put up and that never took place?
I think there was a landscape plan with the original. It probably was pretty minor on that backside. That over time, almost 20 years ago is when this project was established. I think over time it wasn't maintained and is a non-existent now. So the idea is to make sure that with this expansion project that we get those areas between the Nutwood Drive along to the west there and that boundary, including the existing, to get it re-landscaped and get the correct landscaping and fencing along there.
Right, agreed. Okay. Yeah, I agree with my fellow commissioners. There seems to be some confusion a little bit and concern about the employee parking aspect of this. To me, I think if we were to, again, it's gone back and forth, I guess where the employees are parking now versus what is now being called the overflow area. I don't know what it does to Randy's business as far as utilizing that overflow area, maybe as the more permanent employee spot parking. I mean, at least it gets it away from that residential neighbor right next door, possibly. I don't know. I mean, I think the employee aspect of this, the parking, is a concern, and something that needs to be addressed and clarified as we move forward.
And from what I heard was this area that is shown to the left here, the southerly portion along here, seems to be where parking is occurring now. Yeah, there was a photo of that area. It's my understanding that, and that's this upper area here.
That's a real.
Mr. Chair, you probably want to have all the comments made at the lectern.
Correct.
And Mr. Chairman, that's correct. I was misinterpreting this parking area. That area is this area here where have an area where cars are parking. This area here is this area up here. So from what I'm hearing though, is that anywhere along here having employee parking was a concern of the neighbors. Staff had indicated earlier to the applicants that is there any opportunity of moving the employee parking away from this area? Maybe employee parking's here and the area where service vehicles are being placed is up here. I don't know, but I think the Planning Commission has the ability to ask for more information or make some suggestions in terms of where the employee parking is located.
Yeah, I think that would be a great next step. I mean, obviously, it's a big concern. It's a big item on this project. So I think there has to be some solid commitment on where the employee parking is going to take place in order to proceed. That's the only comment I have.
Commissioner Neal.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree that this is not fully baked. I would actually like to see this go back to staff and DRC for some additional analysis. So I just don't think I have enough information. I've been taking what I think are relatively copious notes on potential amendments to the resolution or additions to the resolution, conditions as it were, and I think I've lost track of what I am interested in seeing. So at this point, I'm not comfortable with this as it is presented.
Thank you. Commissioner Christensen.
Thank you, Chairperson Gibson. Yeah, I'm okay with it going back to staff. That makes a lot of sense. We can get a lot of this cleared up. It looks to me like the employee parking seems to be one of the biggest issues. And then the property line, I think that would be a good idea to define that. I'm okay with it going back to staff. I'm not sure that it needs to come back to DRC, but I would say it definitely goes back to staff and maybe goes back to the Planning Commission once they've made some changes. Probably moving that parking to me would solve quite a few of the issues that the neighbor brought up. So that's it for me.
Thank you. I too was attempting to take copious notes. I actually am up to like 8 or 9 different items that sound like they need to be addressed. The top of my list is that transition between the residential area and the Sky River site. And maybe I should preface this, but I am fully supportive of Sky River RV expanding their operations, and I respect that. Running a good business, and they're looking to grow. But I think we have to also balance that with being good neighbors. So I would respectfully suggest that any final landscape plan, I'm actually surprised that we don't have it now, we normally on most projects have a pretty complete landscape plan. And occasionally we have passed things like the Justin project, winery project, under the condition that the landscaping was not robust or clear enough, and it came back to DRC before any final approval. And I would suggest that that would be the case here as well. I fully agree with the idea of the trees. I don't understand planting trees that lose all their leaves, and but I'm just almost stunned to when I'm seeing that the representation that the property line actually is at the top of the hill, and yet the idea is that we're going to landscape on somebody else's property. So I think there's a significant legal aspect that there's got to get some clarity on that. The condition of the all-weather roads, again, I just heard something real vague, and I understand the concept of keeping it open and having an open space and moving vehicles around from here to there. But I think it's going to have to be more formalized, especially if those roads are going to have to be engineered to take the weight of a fire truck. You know, you're not going to engineer the whole 6 acres. So what are you going to engineer? So it's going to have to be some sort of a more formalized pathway of roads. And Randy Harris indicated also that there'd have to be fire hydrants throughout. So again, where's that plan? I'm not comfortable with just leaving it to, down the road that the fire marshal or somebody is going to, at the public safety department is going to approve all that. I think that needs to come back and be transparent, and that means have a public hearing. I've heard repeatedly that the idea that there's 40 cars, which exceeds any sort of capacity that I'm hearing on this site. Sounds like there's a problem, and I'm questioning how that would even be enforced if there's more cars that are on there now than we're going to allow in the future. I'm just questioning that aspect. I was on DRC. I expressed my concern about the chain link. I'm not in favor of chain link fence between a residential area and this area, which is why I was hoping to see a robust landscape plan to hide that fence. I get it that the applicant is looking for some sort of security, and I would too. But respectfully, if I was staring at that, I wouldn't want to be staring at a chain link fence. I was recalling back when I was on DRC that what we did with the applicant at ABI on the corner, which is the neighbor, and I know we had a very long conversation on the Planning Commission about building sound berms or whatever and kind of tucking buildings down behind. So we both, we shrunk the size of any sort of building, and we tried to help mitigate some sort of sound. And again, I would take the same approach in this regard. There's no sound barrier with a chain link fence. So the same sort of concern and the conditions we put on ABI, I think we need to be consistent, and we should come up with some sort of plan to both mitigate the noise and then also try to hide the RVs. And obviously we're not going to hide them all, but the idea is, the ones that are closest shouldn't be visible. So those kind of summarize my thoughts, and I don't disagree with anything that I think anybody said in terms of expression. This is not something I'm comfortable with adopting today. There's just too many unanswered questions. So with that, I'll go one more round around, I guess. If anyone else wants to make more comments.
I would like to make a motion.
You want to make a motion, or we'll let people talk?
I would like to make a motion, and we can respond to that motion.
Okay,
if we wish.
I will let you do that.
I would like to make a motion to refer this item back to staff and DRC for additional analysis.
There is a motion to defer this back to staff and DRC for further analysis. Any seconds?
I'll second.
There is a second. Discussion on the motion as stated.
Is the intent of the motion maker that it then come to the Planning Commission again?
I believe it needs to, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion as stated? Commissioner Christensen, do you have any comments that you want to make on the motion as stated?
No. Thank you, though.
Okay. Seeing that there's no further discussion, can I have roll call on the motion, please?
Do we have a second?
Yes. Commissioner Covarrubias?
Thank you. Roll call. Commissioner Neal?
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Aye.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Chairperson Gibson?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. On my notes, I happened to bury. Okay. Thank you. Moving along to next item is item number 4, conditional use permit and finding of convenience or necessity for Grapes and Grain Basement Bar, CUP 21-28, P21-0124. The applicant is Grover Beach Enterprises. The address is 1240 Spring Street, APN number 009-042-029. Request is to establish a bar in the basement of an existing commercial building by recommending approval of a conditional use permit, and a recommendation that the City Council make a determination that public convenience or public necessity, PCN, would be served by the issuance of a Type 48 license by the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, or ABC. Can we have staff report, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Darren Nash, City Planner. I'm helping Darcy Delgado, our Associate Planner, out tonight with this. She's been working on this project and a little under the weather, so I'm going to provide the staff report today or this evening. As you mentioned, this project is the Grapes and Grains Lounge at 1240 Spring Street. This was previously it's been a bank quite a few times. It's was the Couch Potato most recently prior to Mr. El Sayed purchasing it for the Grapes and Grains project. Looking up at the location map here, you can see on the corner of 13th and Spring. They are currently under construction with a previous project that was approved by the DRC for some renovations to the building itself, for the retail sales of beer and wine liquor in that larger building. Tonight is a request for a conditional use permit to establish a basement bar within the existing commercial building. So there's a basement area that's quite a bit smaller from the floor area of the larger retail building. So the request is for the public convenience and necessity determination, which will ultimately need to go to the City Council. So the alcohol beverage control, they are the with the state issue the alcohol licenses. They decide based on the number of establishments, different types of alcohol permits, if something's over-concentrated or not, and the need to go through a PCN determination, it comes from the alcohol beverage control, where they rely on each municipality to make a finding of convenience or necessity. So as I mentioned, the project, the Grapes and Grains project, the retail project in the larger building is currently under construction, was approved. The retail sales is a permitted use. What we're here for tonight is specifically the zoning code requiring a conditional use permit for bars and cocktail lounges. And that's what's being proposed in the basement area. So we're looking for the review by the Planning Commission, recommendation onto the council for the use permit for the bar or cocktail lounge use. This is the main building itself. Retail use, Grapes and Grains liquor was approved in 2019. Architecture review by the DRC. The actual sales of the alcohol, the Type 21 ABC license, was already approved with that and went through its own public convenience necessity at the time. And then the 13th Street elevation details were reviewed and approved by the DRC in 2021. So this is a rendering of what was approved for the remodel of that existing building. So this is to the right here is showing kind of the basement area. And then these details are showing there's an elevator component and there's also a stairway. I know that this plan's been reviewed by Fire Marshal Harris as well as our building official. They've been working with the applicant's representative on how the ingress and egress of this area is working, and it's actually established the number of people, the occupancy of people that can be in this basement area, which I believe is 29 people, but I'll defer to the applicant's representative in their review to explain that further. So this portion here is this elevator area. And then the stairway area here is at this corner here. And I believe this was an updated plan from what was in the packet, which was the one in the packet was incorrect. So in terms of the getting into the conditional use permit and the operation of the lounge, the applicant's requesting that this lounge be open from 1 p.m. till 2 a.m. on a daily basis. The intent would be for private events during those hours. And it would be limited in clientele. There's no live music, background amplified house music is what they're intending to have. So the discussion tonight will be for the Planning Commission to discuss the hours of operation for this, for the lounge. 2 a.m. is what's being proposed. That's something I believe that stop time is similar to other uses. I don't know all the uses and what their specific times are, but I believe that there are bars in the downtown that are available to be open until 2. With the review of the alcohol beverage control license based on proximity to residential units, it's possible that the ABC could limit those hours through their permit process. However, that happens after the project goes through the use permit process through the city. So we left that ending hour blank so that the Planning Commission could discuss that, and really would like to hear from the applicant, have the applicant explain their business and describe their proposal on those hours. This slide is showing the number of alcohol permits that are issued in this downtown area. The table on the left shows a total of 66. I know Darcy worked with our GIS mapping manager to kind of come up with this area, this detail here. I don't know that they match up or not, but I think the whole idea is to indicate that the downtown is concentrated. I think when the Uptown Town Center specific plan was reviewed, the entertainment type uses, the bars, the cocktail lounges, the restaurants, the wine tasting, the breweries, I think it was anticipated that the downtown area where these types of establishments would be. So it's not a surprise that we have a concentration there. We've been reviewing public convenience and necessity requests for many years in the downtown as different businesses have changed. To determine whether there's too many or not, I think is a policy question for the city, for the council at some point, if there was a thought that there was too many. But this is the process for alcohol licenses in the downtown area. The public convenience determination, so the specific findings, we understand that what we'd be looking for tonight would be, we understand this would be more of a convenience, not as a necessity. We've always questioned that, at what point is it necessity? However, and this would be an example of a convenience, someone requesting this use in a downtown core where there's already people downtown that could come to another a different establishment than what's already established. So the use of the basement of the existing establishment as a bar is consistent with similar establishments in the downtown area. So that's a finding that the Planning Commission could recommend to the council. Another finding is that there are already a number of bar restaurant uses in the downtown region, and there are not significant public safety concerns or an overabundance demand for police services in the area. And this is something that we reviewed with the police department about this proposal for this basement area, and indicated that it's not a significant safety concern, the downtown area. If anything, I think having them kind of concentrated is something that they tend to can control a little better than if they were on the outskirts of town. So just kind of recap, what we're looking for is the recommendation for approval for the conditional use permit. We'd like to have further discussion on what the commission's thought, if they thought this was a use that they could recommend to the council, what that ending time at night would be, a discussion there. And then request to approve Resolution B, recommending determination of public convenience for this alcohol license at 1240 Spring Street. Other options are recommend approval of the project to the City Council with modifications, so the Commission may come up with some modifications tonight and request it move on, or continue and refer back to staff for additional analysis, or 4, recommend the City Council deny the use permit and the public convenience necessity application with findings. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Let's going to open the commission questions of the staff and the applicant. Before we do that, is the applicant present? Have any comments I'd like to make? Please go to the podium. Let us know your name and who you are.
Good evening, commissioners and city staff. My name is Kate Wallstad. I work at Eisman Design, and I am the project architect on the tenant improvement for invite only, representing Grover Beach Enterprises and Mo El Sayed. Thank you so much for hearing the project this evening. We had a productive discussion at DRC 10 days ago, and we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts. I'd be open to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. All right, start commission questions with Commissioner Christensen.
Thank you, Chairperson Gibson. Can you go back to the layout plan, please? So if I remember correctly, Darren, you said something was different in the packet that wasn't part of the packet that we got. Can you clarify what that was?
Ms. Wallstead, can you clarify that?
Sure. So part of the discussion at the DRC hearing was a little bit of clarification requested on the ingress and the egress to the establishment. So we updated the floor plan graphics at the main level to clarify the separation between the liquor store use and the bar use. So to reiterate what we discussed, the main entrance to the bar is off of 13th Street. There's going to be actually a keypad access. This establishment is reservation only. So it's not going to be open to foot traffic by just pedestrians. So when a reservation is made, they will be receiving a key code to access the door off of 13th Street. They'll be greeted by a person in the elevator lobby who will actually assist them down to the lower level where the bar is located. One of the questions that we received at the DRC was how the elevator was working. Is it double-sided? There are 2 points of access to the elevator. In this graphic, the south side of the elevator does access the liquor store, and that's mainly how supplies and restocking will occur from the liquor store to the bar level. That access will not be open to the average patron. The patrons will be accessing the north side of the elevator, and as you drop down to the bar level, they will come out into the hostess area through that north side of the elevator. All of the egress, for the purposes of fire and life safety, are going to be taking place via the stairwell on the south side, which discharges into the existing parking lot. And there's no connection between that stairwell and the liquor store.
Okay, so I was on DRC when this came before us. I know that one of the topics was one of my fellow commissioners brought up the issue. Wasn't clear on the ingress or egress discharge out to the parking lot and whether or not that had access to the liquor store. Now, the reason that was an issue, at least from what I remember, was that it was noted that there's storage located on the plans here for wine and other types of spirits, from my understanding, for the liquor store upstairs, not for the bar itself. So then the question was, okay, how is that going to get accessed by staff? And that's when we were asking whether or not there was a door that accessed from that staircase into the liquor store. Now, you're saying that they're going to discharge out into the parking lot, but then they're not using that access to get to the wine storage. You're saying that they're going to use the elevator now to do that. Is that correct?
That is correct. And there's also a dumbwaiter, which is denoted by keynote 210, kind of in the L part of that stair, which that can also be used for transporting some goods, but primarily restocking to the bar will take place via the elevator. And during the hours when the bar is not in operation, either the elevator or the dumbwaiter could be used for transporting liquor and wine.
Right. I'm glad you pointed that out. I forgot about the dumbwaiter. I don't think we talked about it much in the DRC meeting. I remember you mentioned it in that point in time. So I appreciate the clarification on that. That's good. It does seem a little odd that they're going to have to. So this storage area, I guess that's the confusing part for me, is the storage there. That's going to be stored for the liquor store upstairs, but is that getting access during these business hours of the bar? And if so, you're saying that they're going to come from the elevator and then back through, or maybe you can clarify that a little bit for me.
Sure. I think it's really overflow storage. There's plenty of space in the upstairs liquor store to contain the liquor that they need. So this is really sort of accessory to that, and the purpose would not be to access it during bar hours.
Okay, so it's additional just storage in case they need the space. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct.
Okay. What's the occupancy downstairs? Did you say 29? I think that's what Darren said.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. I wrote a couple of things down. I'm trying to defer this. Well, I'll go back through my notes. I'll let the other commissioners ask their questions. I have a couple more, but I'll come back if they can come back to me later. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Neal.
No real questions. I just am curious about the max occupancy, if that includes staff, and if we look at the floor plan, you can count 30 seats, but that's just something that probably Brian and crew will work through.
Commissioner Covarrubias.
Thank you. Yeah. Interesting enough, I worked in this building for years. So when I'm looking at this thing, I'm like, wow. So I'm trying to understand something. So where the stairwell is now, that stairwell is brand new, yes? No.
No, that's
Because there used to be a stairwell, 2 accesses to downstairs. Are both accesses still there, or is it just now the one?
So the original stair was located in the sort of northwest corner of the building. That has been removed.
That has been removed.
Yeah.
Okay, so the elevator is brand new.
Correct.
Correct? Okay. All right. So, and again, I know Darren mentioned this, I think, emergency services, city, marshal, they've looked at this and they're okay with the egress and ingress of this thing?
Yeah, and Fire Marshal Harris is in attendance, but it's my understanding they've been reviewing it with Ms. Wallstead and her firm, and they will need to get the necessary tenant improvement plan through the building department, which will then be reviewed for building code and fire code requirements.
Interesting. Just curious, totally off the subject, the vault that was in there, is it still there?
Yes.
I was curious, that thing can't be moved. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, about the hours. So you're proposing the downstairs be open until 2 a.m. What about the upstairs? Is it going to correlate? Is the upstairs going to close prior?
I believe the upstairs closes at, is it 11? And so they're not, there's going to be some hours of overlap, but the hours of the liquor store begin much earlier.
Okay, so you mentioned that the downstairs is going to be membership only or reservation only?
Reservation only.
Reservation, so you don't need a special membership, you just need a reservation.
Correct.
And you're limited to 29 occupants downstairs.
Correct, so that's 25 patrons and 4 staff.
And 4 staff, so that does include staff.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, okay. I have some comments, but no more questions. I'll make some comments in a minute. Thank you.
Mr. Jorgensen.
My questions are for Darren. Could you go back to the ABC license diagrams?
This one, or there was a finding?
No, this is fine. Where did, you probably said this, but where did this information come from?
So the data on the table on the left-hand side came from the ABC, from the Alcohol Beverage Control. They had the different the different licenses based on an address. And then I know there was questions at the DRC on the concentration and different, businesses. And I believe Darcy had our mapping manager put together the information on the right to kind of plot out those addresses. So the intent is that the graphic on the right is attempting to show where those different licenses are located.
Okay. This is just really an observation. I just was looking at this, trying to orient myself, and the way I look at it, and it's not scientific, but it looks to me like at least Taste, Rodeo, 13th Street's, Pine Avenue Saloon, BL Brasserie. I mean, there's lots of things not shown on the diagram on the right. So I would just comment that we should not consider that potentially accurate. The information on the left, if it came from ABC, it's probably, I don't differ with that, but I think the diagram would show there's things missing. It's just an observation.
And it's just a graphic to try and show concentration, but I understand that maybe every establishment is not shown on there, and we have to take in consideration the scale of it, but it's not in the resolution. It was part of a graphic for a presentation.
That's it for now.
Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I think you answered, Kate, that the elevator is new. I was going to ask if this was existing infrastructure. It was new as part of the plan. I do have a question, and I'll ask it of you, Kate. It's maybe more business related. I know you're the architect, but the concept of a speakeasy. Okay, you're parking over on, and you're entering on 13th Street. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you are exiting this basement on the parking lot side.
You are exiting if you're a patron, you're going to be coming in and out via the elevator. The stairway is only for the purpose of emergency egress.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I want to go to this exclusive, not membership only, but exclusive by appointment bar, I would enter only on 13 in and out.
Correct.
Okay. And with the occupancy, yeah, I think it was 25 patrons and 4 staff. Maybe this is a staff question. Are we fully parked? I know that there was a parking equation for the main floor, and then now we have 25 additional patrons in and out, or staff. I'm assuming it's the same. I'm in additional staff. I'm not sure. I'm just there's a parking question that I have. And we'll just go with that. I'll ask staff, how is it parked?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we're actually over parked. We have a requirement of 25 spaces between the 2 establishments, and we're showing 30 parking spaces.
Okay.
So the Uptown Town Center plan requires a 1 space per 400 square feet for buildings in the specific plan area, non-residential. So they're parking it at that ratio and because they have a large parking lot along the south side, and then it wraps around.
Out of the town recently, but is 2 a.m. is it standard closing time for bars? Is it? Isn't it more like? Is it? Okay. All right, that's all.
So, Kate, I was actually on DRC, so I've seen a couple of different changes. I've seen the clarity that the stairway is now walled off from the liquor store, because we had that question about, it looked like there was free ingress and egress coming up and down. So, but I'm pretty sure I remember that this was originally proposed to be a one-way flow. It was coming in the elevator and out the stairs. Is that correct?
No, we might not have clarified that at the DRC. Yeah, the purposes of the elevator would be for ingress and egress of patrons on a day-to-day basis. The point of the stair is really just for emergency.
Okay, all right. So, Randy Harris, are you still with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
Thanks. So I have a question from a safety perspective, and whether it's you or maybe potentially staff, but I'm thinking this is probably you. So when you have a building like this where it's below ground, and I'm a risk manager by trade, so I'm thinking about things like what happens if there's a fire or an earthquake or something, and you have 2 points of egress, but one of them is an elevator. What's the basic rules for operating a business if the elevator's not working? Is there a specific ordinance for that, or some sort of safety rule?
Yes, so it's addressed both in the fire code and building code, and the threshold is 50 and more require 2 ingresses and egresses. So being under that number, and the applicant and design team coming in at 29, including their staff, we're under that threshold.
Okay, so just I'm going to parrot this back, just make sure I'm understanding. Because it's under 50, if for some reason the elevator was broken down and the only access was through the stairway, the business could still operate?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. So I guess my last question, Kate, is what hours are you looking at wanting to operate? Because staff left that blank, something for us to make a decision on.
Yeah, we're proposing 1 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Okay, all right. That's all my questions. So, Rob, go ahead.
Chairperson Gibson, thank you. Just a clarity on the stairwell. At the top of the stairwell, when you come up, is there a door?
Yes, that's correct. There's a
Does
door.
that door have a lock?
It will, I mean, it'll be directional for egress, and it will be, I'd have to confirm with Randy on this. I don't believe it can be locked during business hours.
Okay. But we can, okay, you'll get that clarified though, I would assume with staff. I would assume that's an important aspect, is whether or not that door can be locked. If something happens to the elevator, somebody locks that door, you got people downstairs.
Yeah, it absolutely has to be locked from the or unlocked from the inside so people can exit for sure in case of an emergency.
Oh, it does.
And that'll all have to be reviewed at the time of building plan check with the building department and the fire department.
I'm not sure panic hardware is required for the occupancy, but.
Chairperson Gibson?
Yes, sir.
This is Commissioner Christensen. I had that follow-up question. I just wanted clarification from staff. Because I was noting in the exhibit that it discusses the occupancy should be limited to 29 persons at all times. And then it also, number 9, that it be prepared for professional, by design professional showing the 29 occupancy. In the plans, that's why it was confusing to me, because in the plans it calls for an occupancy of 48 or 49. So city is able to mandate that and determine that they'll have, if we approve this exhibit, it'll be for 29 persons. Is that correct? And can they come back later? Because these plans that we're showing here on the exhibit that I have show 48 or 49 persons. Is that something that they could try and change later? What would be the process for that, I guess?
And is this, Commissioner Christensen, is that the question for staff?
Yes, it is for staff. Thank you.
So that's correct. So this, with the approval of this conditional use permit, is condition number 9 that has a limitation of 29 people. The floor plans that are shown on the screen are, my understanding, updated from what was in the packet and will be included in the approval if that's what the commission requests to do. There's also a question or condition number 11. There's conditions number 10 and 11 that deal with the review of future uses that want to change beyond this, requiring a city review at that time to make sure that the occupancy in this basement area is still correct per the codes.
Great. Thank you for that clarification, Darren. I appreciate it. That's all for me right now with questions, Chairperson Gibson.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Neal.
So just to follow up, Darren, in this approval, if we move this to approval, we're also approving the plan as presented, because the plan as presented has 30 seats, or the ability for 30 seats, and the maximum occupancy is 29. So I'm not sure how we can approve the plan showing 30 patron seats with a maximum occupancy of 29.
Yeah, my suggestion is we have the condition and we'll make sure that the exhibits, I can work with Kate on making sure the exhibits are updated to show that appropriately.
So then we wouldn't, in our motion, we wouldn't be approving this basement floor plan as presented.
Part of your motion could be to amend the floor plan to correspond with the 29 patrons.
Thank
you. Darren, this is Commissioner Christensen again. So, and this is going off of what Commissioner Neal said. I've just helped me clarify as well too. Because under number 9 on Exhibit A, you're referring to the fact that the applicant would have to submit design plans with those improvements. So in this case, we would just probably be omitting the Exhibit E, basically. And it would, is that correct? That would just have to come back? Because I'm comfortable with staff working that out, as it seems like number 9 would suggest. Am I wrong with that?
Yeah, and staff understands the inconsistency, and this is a plan that will go up to the city council. So between the planning commission's review and up to the city council, we can make sure that the plans correspond accordingly.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I do have a follow-up question. So the staff has left it up to the commission to set the hours of operation to the ending hours of operation. And I'm not sure, I guess my question is, does staff have a recommendation for these hours, or is the 1 to 2, because I think if I were potentially to make it would seem awfully arbitrary at the moment on my part. So I'm not sure how I could adjust that other than the 2 a.m. unless staff has some recommendations.
And staff doesn't have any recommendations. I think the thought was this is a conditional use permit. And one of the things that conditions of approval on a use that make it compatible or not, a lot of times is hours of operation. So it's understood that other establishments in downtown go till 2 a.m. It may be reasonable for this one to go, but at the time, staff left it open so that the planning commission could discuss that. But I don't think to have a 2 a.m. is possible to have.
Okay, so I have to circle back on something. Because again, I was on DRC. So the idea of this is they're going to come in on 13th Street. They have to have an access code. But this is why it worked. It worked because they couldn't get in the back door. The back door, we were told, was going to be locked. Okay. There was a one-way in and one way and the other way out is how it was presented at DRC. If the back door is unlocked, then there's no point in having an access code. That plan just falls completely apart. So my question of staff is, what actually are the safety rules for that back door? If that back door is, I'm concerned about, I'm looking at this being easily out of control, beyond the 29 capacity, 25 people and 4 staff. One more staff person comes from downstairs, even from the liquor store. Now we're at 30, right? The back door is unlocked. How does somebody normally maintain control of that, and what are the rules for the locking of that back door?
And I don't know the operations of this specific business, but I do know that they're going to have to comply with the fire codes and the building codes for this space. They have an architect working on the project that has had meetings with our building official, had meetings with our fire marshal. So I don't have the specific answer for you, but I do know that they will be required to get a permit that will be reviewed, and all those types of ingress and egress, whether a door is locked or not, significant safety, criteria of this project, and they will need to show how they comply. The fire marshal is online, or is with us tonight. He may have some other answers for you.
Okay. That's all my questions. Any other questions or concerns by the commission? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I have one more question. I think I forgot to ask. The liquor store component upstairs, what are the hours of that? What are the proposed hours of that?
It's 11 a.m. to, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
To 11 p.m.
Correct.
Okay, so that closes at 11, and then does it go dark at that point? Or what happens at 11 o'clock?
Yeah, so it's completely closed. It's locked.
Okay.
It's not open.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Mohammed El Sayed.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for the commission, for staff, or the applicant?
Yeah, just a question. If a motion was to be, did we put it to public comment? Oh, so.
We'll wait. That's totally on me. We got carried away. I got carried away. I'm going to go on an open public hearing. Is there anybody that'd like to address this matter for the commission? Seeing none. Is there any caller that's calling in that would like to address this matter?
No callers.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Okay.
That's my question. So if one was to move forward a motion, where would the motion maker put the hours of operation? Is that in item B or item A? Item
The
B
resolution for the conditional use permit. So that
is A.
Maybe that's Exhibit A.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's my only question.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, then I will entertain a motion. Doesn't have to always be you. It could be somebody else.
This is Commissioner Christensen, Chairperson Gibson. I would like to make a comment. I think that we have to make a recommendation on the hours of close, if I'm correct with that. So I'm assuming that the motioner would put that proposed time in the motion, and that would be a part of the motion whether or not to accept the Exhibit A as part of the condition. Is that correct?
Yeah, Commissioner Christensen, that's my clear understanding as well. If you look on page 112 in the conditions of approval, item 3 has been left blank, and staff has been very clear upon questioning that they're looking for the Planning Commission to fill in those blanks to make that recommendation to the City Council.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So Chairperson Gibson, I'd like to make a motion.
Commissioner Neal.
I would like to recommend approval of the bar use with a determination that the public convenience would be served by the issuance of a Type 48 license by the Department of Alcohol. Yes. Actually, I will do it differently if I may. I think I need to approve draft resolution A recommending approval of conditional use permit 21-28 subject to site conditions of approval, including, and do we need these in separate motions? Yeah. Okay.
Should go under resolution A.
Yes, including adding the hours of operation from 1 p.m. to 2 a.m. and making specific note to amend floor plan in Exhibit B to meet the occupancy required.
You're a second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Coparubias. Do you have any discussion on the motion?
I just have one clarification that came across kind of sketchy. Was that Exhibit E, Commissioner Neal? Is that what you referred to?
It is Exhibit D in my package. I'm not sure if it's Exhibit E in yours, but
Well, I think it's potential on both exhibits, so we'll update both of them.
okay. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, it is an Exhibit E as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Neal?
Aye.
Commissioner Covarubias?
Aye.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Chairperson Gibson?
Aye.
Motion for resolution A passes 6-0.
Chairperson Gibson, I'd like to make a motion.
Commissioner Neal.
I'd like to move approval of draft resolution B, recommending that the City Council make a determination that a public convenience would be served by the issuance of a Type 48 ABC license for the bar located at 1240 Spring Street.
There is a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Christensen. Beat you to the punch. Any discussion on the motion? See none. Could we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Neal?
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Covarubias?
Aye.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Chairperson Gibson?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Good luck. We're into Section 8, discussion items. What goes in discussion items?
There are none tonight.
There are none. That's why I don't see any. Okay, section I, consent calendar. Does anybody have any questions on the consent calendar? Any of those items?
Comments on some minutes?
Yeah, Commissioner Jorgensen.
Page 126, DRC for April 4th. Commissioners present, Joel Neal, Mark Kogler, and blank.
Yeah, I noted that as well. It looked like there's some people
And
missing.
that happens again on page 1. Oh, that is, I have duplicates in my binder, so
Yes,
I apologize.
I do as well.
Don't you do as well?
I do. I thought it was just
And then
me.
I had another one, page 129, item 2. This was April 11th. Just some corrections. It's LED capitals border, BORDER, not somebody paying rent. That happens twice in the minutes. Spelling corrections. And I think that was it.
What was the other one where we didn't have the full attendance?
So it was on page 126.
What, 126, where it says Commissioners President, Joel Neal, Mark Kogler, and there's a blank.
I don't recall if Commissioner Christensen was there or not.
Okay, and we'll check that. That I thought we mentioned it happened in another place.
No, it did. It was my double pages.
Okay, sorry about that.
I have
Okay.
two 126.
You know, I think actually Commissioner Christensen was there because we talked about the.
Yeah.
So
Okay, it was
let's add
Christensen?
Commissioner Christensen.
Perfect.
Okay, and on page 137, there's another typo. It says liming pools. On the top, item B.
Which
Oh, yeah.
page?
Yeah, I had that one too.
Page 137.
137.
First word on page
First word, liming.
37.
I'm not getting in if you're liming it, I'm just saying. So anyway, just some typo corrections, I think, and adding in that Commissioner Christensen was at the meeting. Okay, with that, I entertain a motion
I move to approve the consent calendar
with the corrections
as corrected.
as corrected. The second,
I'll second.
there's second, Commissioner Davis. Roll call.
Who was the first on that?
Commissioner Jorgensen, Davis.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias? Aye. Commissioner Neal?
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Chairperson Gibson?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. All right, Section J, other reports, Paso Robles Streetscape Ad Hoc Committee Report.
Yeah, 1 second. Hang on. Okay, let's see. So Paso Robles Streetscape Ad Hoc Committee is scheduled to meet this Thursday, 3 p.m. It'll be a hybrid meeting, so you can attend either in the conference room or virtually by Teams. We've basically been moving forward on building some priorities and themes for that area. I think our next focus is going to be how best to engage the neighborhood. So we'll be talking about those items at Thursday's meeting.
Great. Item 8, Housing Constraints and Opportunities Committee, HCOC Zoning Code Update Report.
We don't have any specific updates. We're continuing to work with the consultant on refining the zoning code. There'll probably be some questions and drafts that come back to the HCOC as well as to the Planning Commission sometime early this summer. We continue to look at opportunities for additional rental housing projects in town. I would expect probably later this summer we'll also have some sort of reports and options for that as well.
Okay, thank you. Item 9, Development Review Committee rotation. Does any of the planning commissioners have a conflict on the upcoming months where they otherwise would serve that?
I do, and it's unfortunately on the very first one, I have an unforeseen conflict. I'm giving a final on June 6th, and
Okay.
I would like to see if someone could cover that for me.
What date was that again?
June 6th?
June 6th?
Unless Commissioner Christensen wants to do it, I'm available as well.
I covered for your trail ride, Ty.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think my notes are, I owe you one, so I'm available on the 6th. I'll take that one for you, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So staff, please note on June 6th that Commissioner Christensen will cover for Commissioner Davis, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other changes?
Yeah, I will have a conflict on August 8th. I know I'm going out a little bit, but I will be out of town on August 8th, if anybody could cover for me.
Okay, is there anybody that could cover for Commissioner Covarrubias?
I'm also out of
August
town.
8th. I'm already on it, so I can't do it twice.
I think I
Okay, Commissioner Jorgensen? All right. So again, staff, please note August 8th, Commissioner Jorgensen will cover for Commissioner Covarrubias. Any other changes or schedules that people need somebody to cover them on their duty for DRC? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Section K, Planning Commissioner comments. Commissioner Christensen. Do you have any comments?
No, I don't have any comments. I just want to tell you, great job tonight, Gibson. That was a great job.
Thank you. Commissioner Neal.
No.
Okay. Commissioner Davis.
No comments.
Commissioner Jorgensen. Commissioner Covarrubias.
Just thank you to the staff. We had a lot of stuff on the agenda tonight, and they did a great job.
Went through pretty fast. I just have one, and it might be rhetorical at this point, but I've heard rumors, and we keep being told that it's being pushed, but what's actually going on with the landing project? I've heard that it fell out of escrow.
No, it hasn't fallen out of escrow.
Cross that rumor off.
Yeah, so Majestic Realty does have it tied up in escrow with the state of California. Right. They've gotten an extension from the state to go through their entitlement process. We're continuing to work on the EIR. It's a complicated issue with traffic, with Caltrans and other issues there. So the goal is to have a very precise traffic analysis. So that's what's taking a little longer than we had originally hoped for. It's likely that the draft document probably will be circulated late summer. I would expect public hearings by the end of the calendar year.
Okay, thank you. Staff comments?
Yeah, first thing is just schedule. So traditionally we've canceled the meeting in July that overlaps with the fair, which would be July 26th. We do have a project that we're trying to actually have on the July 26th date. So we just wanted to check and make sure we would have a quorum if we actually held a meeting on July 26th. So that's up for discussion.
Okay, everybody could please check their calendar. So quick respond.
And we did check the schedule for the fair, and there isn't anybody assigned yet. So
I checked too. Might be waiting for that assignment.
I am available on the 26th. It looks like. What about the rest of the commission?
I am currently available.
Yeah,
until we find out who plays on the 26th.
Yeah, I'm currently available too, Mrs. Commissioner.
So it sounds like the consensus is we're currently available depending on what's going on the 26th for entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on the fence. Son's birthday as well on that day.
Oh, well, you're not here.
Yeah.
sounds like we may want to.
Okay, so let's reserve that for a meeting date. As we get closer, we'll decide if we're actually going to need it or not.
Okay. Any other staff comments?
Yeah, so your recommendation on the short-term rental ordinance will be on the June 7th City Council agenda. So we've sent out the legal notices for that. We're working on the staff report right now. So staff report for the council will be issued next week on that. Tomorrow is the groundbreaking for the Olson South Chandler specific plan. So you'll recall that's almost 1,300 units, kind of the end of Sherwood, all the way down to Meadowlark. So basically, we're going to have quite a nice event tomorrow, 4 p.m. We definitely want all the commissioners out there. City Council will be out there. It will be a formal groundbreaking event. We expect press to be out there. So any of the commissioners that show up will want you to be part of the formal, groundbreaking event. So we're definitely encouraging everyone to attend. So it's 4 p.m. It's basically, if you go down Sherwood and then turn, that's Fontana, then turn again Lene. It's kind of right there at the corner of Fontana and Lene. So just go out where the giant excavators are all parked up.
All right.
That's where the photo op is.
All right. And you have enough shovels for all of us.
We'll have enough shovels for you. You show up, you get a shovel.
Was that tomorrow at 4? Is that what you said, Warren?
Yes, tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Thank you.
So get there probably about 15 minutes early would be best.
Yeah.
We'll get everybody organized.
Okay.
Budget is the next big thing that's going on. The council is going to be adopting a two-year budget on June 21st. They have a special meeting scheduled for next Tuesday, which is May 31st, where they'll be talking about the specifics of the budget. So you just may want to keep track of that. Obviously, with everything going on in the city, there's a lot of proposed changes in terms of staffing and projects and whatnot, basically to prepare for and accommodate all the growth that's, in the pipeline, as well as that which we've already seen. That'll conclude my comments. Anyone else? Darren, you have anything?
No? Okay. That concludes
Warren,
comments.
Warren, this is Mr. Christensen. I apologize. I did have one question from my comment section for you. What's the latest on the Railroad Street? I know you mentioned the budget, so that got me thinking on that note. What's happening there?
Yeah, there's a couple things going on. So that development project at the Lush Limousine is moving through building permits right now. So that will be installing part of the streetscape concept. We also have a funding request in for basically downtown streetscape enhancements, which include lighting projects, which potentially include railroad, as well as funding for adopting the formal design standard. We also have a request in potentially to look at the alley, the Norma's Alley area, for some sort of design work as well. So there's a number of those projects that are up for consideration right now.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other business, or somebody want to make a motion to adjourn? No, nobody wants to leave.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
There's a motion and a second. I'll take that as unanimous consent. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.